Welcome to today's seminar. Before we get started, I'd like to take just a moment to thank Salesfusion for sponsoring today's broadcast. Salesfusion helps companies deliver more revenue. With Salesfusion's smart marketing automation platform, marketing and sales teams are delivering more lead-to-revenue results by nurturing and surfacing the right leads into the CRM at the right time. If you're on Twitter, be sure to add hashtag B2B marketing, that's B2BS marketing, to your seminar-related tweets during or after this broadcast. Okay, today's webcast is The New Reality of Marketing and Selling to the B2B Buyer, and our presenter is Kevin Miller. Kevin is the Vice President of Solution Strategy at Salesfusion and a 23-year veteran of the marketing services and marketing technology industries. Kevin has been a thought leader in the B2B marketing automation space since its inception and is an influential leader at Salesfusion. We're very excited to have Kevin here to present today, so let's go ahead and get started. Kevin, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate that. And for all of you who have joined us today, we're going to make sure that we make the next 45 minutes or so of your lives interesting and educational and useful. And as Carrie mentioned, today we're talking about the new reality of marketing and selling to the B2B buyer. And this is a very interesting topic because it touches on a couple of different things. One, some of the fundamental changes for how people evaluate and buy products today. And two, the different technologies that are available to us that can help us adapt and change the way we think about selling from how we've traditionally sold products and services in the past. So let's go ahead and get into the heart of the presentation today. Briefly want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we are going to cover. Firstly, how self-directed selling has left sales behind, and we'll talk a lot about what we mean about being left behind relative to how we traditionally sold products and technology. We'll talk about the impact of self-directed selling and what this has done to traditional sales cycles. We'll talk about marketing's role in pipeline development, what's changed, new responsibilities of marketing, and new demands that are being placed on marketing and how they fill the funnel with pre-qualified leads. We'll talk about marketing automation as a technology platform. Marketing automation is clearly one of the hottest product sectors in software as a service today for good reason, and because of how it complements CRM systems and also how it helps companies get back in the game, so to speak, and interact with these online conversations that are occurring that we'll talk about. And then we'll touch briefly on this whole notion of sales nurture programs and what their role is in the new selling environment. So briefly, why have sales been left behind? We could sum that up by basically saying the buyer journey has in large part become self-paced. And what is this buyer journey? Well, this buyer journey begins with people using the web to find products and services that they're interested in. And that's nothing new. That's no secret. What has changed, however, is once people find products and services that they're interested in, or a selection of those, this whole notion of what we call the social web kicks in, where people actually go through a robust evaluation process prior to interacting with salespeople at your organization. It is not until they get through that stage that they're willing to have direct human-to-human engagement between themselves and your salespeople. There's been a number of different studies on changes in buyer behavior, changes in buyer habits, etc. One study that I happen to find particularly interesting is from SiriusDecisions, and they looked at the buying cycle in B2B environments, and they found through their surveys that as much as 70% of this buy cycle is going to be self-directed and completed prior to engaging with sales personnel. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but when you stop and you think about that, think about the amount of information that we as marketers have pushed out into various channels on the web, whether that's our own corporate website, whether that's our blog, whether that's Twitter, social sites. We are pushing a tremendous amount of content out to the web. It stands to reason that as marketers, we want this information to be consumed. The side effect of all this content that we're pushing out to the web is that we're making so much available that people are beginning to self-evaluate, consuming this information from one vendor to another vendor, etc. And it's not until they've consumed what they believe is enough information that they're willing to make the direct engagement to sales. So this is what we mean by sales being left behind, because in the past, sales had fully controlled the dissemination of information through most of the sales cycle. And very good, effective salespeople were those that knew which information, content pieces to distribute at what point to keep people engaged and keep them moving through the funnel. So talking a little bit more about this notion of self-directed selling. Buyers are looking to self-educate at their own pace. Nurture marketing as a technology and a strategy is how companies can stay relevant to buyers in this evaluation stage. We call this the lower intestine graphic, if you will. It kind of is convoluted. It looks like an organ of some sort, but it's actually very good at painting the picture that we're trying to talk about. We look at the 3 stages that people go through in a purchase cycle. There's going to be an awareness stage. This is how people find you. Then there's going to be a consideration stage, and then there's going to finally be a purchase stage. Well, what's happened is that if you think back to the last slide, there's that middle green evaluate/social web section that exists. What's happened is people are finding you through the awareness piece, and that's typically through search. Then they're being presented with a tremendous amount of volume of content, and they're going through this consideration phase. Now, this is self-directed. The consideration phase is people consuming your white papers, your case studies, your videos, your blog posts. They're consuming all this information, and they may be going out and consuming information from competitors as well to get competitive differentiations with you. This is the part that sales used to control that no longer controls. This is the part that has become completely online and completely self-directed. We can refer to this, broadly speaking, as the social web. Again, it's that combination of digital footprints that exist out there, mostly populated by ourselves, that we want people to engage with and consume. The only problem is we don't really control several key things with respect to the consideration phase. We don't control whether or not people are going to consume the information. We don't control a one-to-one conversation. I can present a piece of content to you that I believe is relevant based on what I know about you. And it's hard for us to get metrics from the consideration phase to determine whether or not people have consumed information and what's the next logical step to take in the process. So marketing automation really has been designed to fit into this consideration phase very nicely, where we can start to gather information about consumption of digital assets through the marketing automation tracking software. And we can start to make decisions about, should we present more content or should we engage them directly with sales? A lot of misconceptions about marketing automation platforms are that they're meant to fully automate the sales cycle, and that's absolutely the opposite of what's true. If I could sum marketing automation up, it's a technology platform that's meant to understand when people have an interest in buying your product or evaluating your product, and getting your salespeople engaged with those individuals as soon as possible. So the exact opposite of what people think about marketing automation is true. It's really about getting people engaged directly with prospects sooner in the consideration phase. If we can get people like at this side of the green oval, if we can get people here engaged directly with our salespeople, we have a much better chance to get to this stage of the cycle than if we were to leave this to the internet with no control whatsoever. In order to use technology like marketing automation systems to figure out when people are engaged at the level at which there's clear buying signals, that we need to get that in front of salespeople. There's a couple of different types of information that is available to us today that we have to take into consideration. We've summarized them in 4 broad categories: web activity data, campaign response data, form completion data, and social interactions. These are 4 types of interactions that people will have as they're consuming information in the middle of that diagram when they're in that quote-unquote consideration phase. Web activity data is the richest set of data that we have available to us today. It's facilitated and enabled by placing first-party persistent cookies on the machines of individuals who are interacting with, let's say, your emails or your landing pages. The downstream traffic that we're able to gather is vital. The information tells us who is coming to our website, how did they get there, why are they there, what information did they consume. It also can look into things like your blog site or microsites or landing pages. How are people getting into those? What are they consuming? And are they coming back again and again? And we're using that information to determine interest level. Campaign responses. This would be the most traditional of the 4 categories of data, figuring out who's responding to which campaigns. We're using a lot of campaign response data in conjunction with web activity data to drive nurture marketing programs today, and we'll get into more definition around nurture marketing programs as we get later into this. Form completions are always very important. Social interactions is the newest form of data that marketers are starting to bring into the marketing automation platform fold, and then even into the CRM fold, so we can start to understand, are people interacting with us socially, and what do those interactions mean? We know from consumer-based marketing what social interactions can mean about brand equity, who's talking about our brand, what are they saying about our brand, etc. So those things are much more mature in data sets than the type of B2B interactions that we're tracking. So that's an area that is still evolving, but it's very interesting information that we have to pay attention to. Marketing automation is built to complement sales. Again, I want to reinforce this point because we're going to circle back to it multiple times in the presentation today. At many companies, and this is from somebody who's talked to hundreds, if not close to thousands of companies over the years, who are struggling to get marketing and sales on the same page. And they're looking for a combination of technology, best practices, business processes, education on how to figure out how they can get marketing and sales working together. The disconnect between marketing and sales has always existed, and we'll explain why. The problem is, because that consideration phase, the lower intestines piece that I showed you, because that exists, the disconnect is actually much more severe of a problem today than it was 10 or 15 years ago. The reason behind that is because marketing is directly responsible for a deeper level of activity in the sales funnel. Marketing is taking leads straight through the middle of the funnel, pre-qualification stage. So if marketing and sales both have somewhat equal responsibility to the sales funnel and yet are disconnected from a technology and process standpoint, it stands to reason that your company is not going to be particularly successful. There's also this notion of buyer control of online research. We have to be able to let our salespeople know what people are consuming, how often they're consuming the information. The social web, which has removed power from sales, marketing automation can help us put some power back in the hands of sales by figuring out who is engaging with us and who do we need to put sales on the telephone with, and how can we help sales get on the telephone with people again. Traditional CRM systems, the primary customer-facing system that's been in place since the 90s. They support, they being CRM systems, the old way of selling. By the old way of selling, I mean the assumption that sales controls information dissemination. They're activity-based, based on salespeople's interactions and phone calls, etc. It's very much a method of tracking the behavior of salespeople rather than tracking the behavior of your customers. Marketing automation is built to support the new way of selling, which is understanding the behavior and the activities of our potential buyers, and then figuring out ways that we can use that information to our advantage. There are 5 specific ways that marketing automation systems can help get sales back in the game. And I want to be clear that there's never, in any technology category, a technology magic bullet. The technology only works as good as the processes and the people that are driving it. And that's the same whether it's ERP, financials, business intelligence systems, to hospital system, whatever. These systems are only as good as the people and the processes that are running them. However, we can categorize 5 very distinct ways that marketing automation systems, from a technology point of view, can help sales get back in the game. Firstly, facilitating engagement, keeping CRM free of unqualified suspects, nurturing your lukewarm leads, alerting sales when there's high-value activity, and giving sales insight into the buyer interest that we've accumulated through the data before they pick up the phone and call somebody. Firstly, let's talk a little bit about facilitating engagement. Most folks might be familiar with this whole notion of website visitor tracking. Explaining what that is briefly. Website visitor tracking is kind of a place at the table technology for all marketing automation platforms. Everybody's going to have it. What it is it's a set of JavaScript that sits on your website, your blog site, your landing pages, and your emails. And as an individual clicks through an email or fills out a form, we place a first-party cookie, persistent cookie on their machine. It's important to note it's a first, not a third-party cookie. What that then does is that allows us to identify when that individual interacts with us again. It's good to know that somebody opened and clicked through an email and downloaded a white paper. It's better to know that a week later they came to my website and browsed around and downloaded 3 case studies. The downstream behavior is actually much more valuable than the actual click-through data or form completion data in which they're being tagged. It is the most valuable lead behavior that we can capture. Ultimately, what happens is as we capture this data, it gets scored. And folks may be familiar with the term lead scoring. Lead scoring is a methodology that we build a model of what we think are pre-qualified prospects, or SQL, sales qualified leads. And that profile is typically based on assigning value to discrete behaviors. You visit a web page, that's a point. You download an email, that's a point, so on and so forth. The biggest factor in lead scoring models is website visitor behavior. That feeds the model, and then hopefully it tells us, okay, this person has had enough interactions and now we think they're pretty hot. So we're going to alert sales via an email instantaneously once that person scores. And we're going to give sales certain marketing intelligence in the actual entity or record in CRM. So we're going to push that behavioral information that we've captured right into the CRM system. So the basic flow should be somebody clicks an email, a week later they come to your website, they browse and browse and browse, and they download a few more things. That scores them as hot. We send an email to the sales rep saying you have a hot lead. There's a backlink in the email right into CRM. They go into the CRM, and there's a button in there that they can push, and in our world it would be a Salesfusion button that they can push, and they can see everything that that person's done. So the sales rep can go in and kind of evaluate the behavior that we've captured. Which emails did they open? Which data sheets did they download? Which case studies did they read? That information is meant to facilitate person-to-person engagement when used properly. So you're hopefully going to tell sales on the day that the person's having interactions and prompt them to make an outbound outreach phone call. And it could be, thank you for downloading this information. I wanted to make you aware that we've got some additional materials that were not on the website that I'd like to present to you. Those type of follow-up interactions tend to be better interactions than a straight-up cold call. Keeping your CRM system clean of unqualified suspects. Now, I haven't found a better graph to explain the problems between marketing and sales than this one. We kind of turn a funnel on its side. So we'll talk about a couple of topics here. The first one is going to be why marketing and sales tend to butt heads or are not on the same page. There's a philosophical, psychological reason to start, and that is that every marketer has been trained to focus on what we call reach. You want to, as a marketer, reach the most people with your message for the least amount of spend. That's why some of the traditional ways that we bought ads online or even in magazines or in print back in the day, I'm dating myself a little bit, but it was a CPM or a cost per thousand or cost per million. We want to reach the most people with our message for the least amount of spend. We want to capture as many responses as we possibly can and have the highest open and click rates. These are mentalities that are bred into marketers from the first time they start studying marketing. Now, salespeople, on the other hand, have a vastly different mindset. If you put a salesperson in front of a room of 1,000 people and say, who would you like to talk to in this room right now? The marketer would say, I want to talk to everybody. I want everybody to see my message. The salesperson would say, I only want to talk to the people in this room that have the capacity and desire to buy my product. Otherwise, the salesperson is simply wasting their time. So they want to only talk to a very small subset of the people that marketing want to talk to. Now, that's fine, and that will always be that way. However, in the past, marketing would generate lots of click-throughs, lots of responses, lots of opens. In the absence of marketing automation integrated with CRM, they would oftentimes load those responses into CRM through a spreadsheet, or give the spreadsheet to sales and say, here's all the click-throughs from the white paper, good luck. Sales will look at that and immediately begin a process of mental cherry picking. Not cherry picking from a bad point of view, but cherry picking in the sense that they know they're not going to get to all 5,000 responders. So they're going to scan through it and they're going to look for the companies that they think they can sell to, either through past relationships, either through past selling activities that have occurred. They're going to cherry pick and try to whittle that list down to something more manageable. Now, of the people that they didn't choose, and let's say they chose 100 and that leaves us with 900. Of the 900 people sales didn't choose to work on, basically some of those people were interested. They may not have been ready to talk today, but they were interested. They may be set to languish. No follow-up calls, they'll just kind of rot on the vine, if you will. And off they go in their self-directed buy cycle, finding other vendors who may engage with them quickly and who may end up driving that sales cycle forward. Marketing automation is meant to completely plug this hole by implementing lead management and lead scoring. So we temper marketing's enthusiasm for high volumes of responders, and we only push through to sales those people that have had a much more significant amount of behavioral activity, web activity, additional download, downstream campaign activity. It is those people that will make their way through to sales. It's going to be a smaller subset, and marketing automation systems should, in theory, pass fewer leads to sales, but they should be better leads. The fewer leads, but more qualified they are, over time we can build trust with sales. So they'll know when these leads are coming over from marketing, I need to give them immediate attention because these are the best leads that we can have. Alerting mechanisms are extremely important. They're also very easy to accomplish in a marketing automation system. What we're trying to do with alerts, whether they're email alerts or CRM system generated alerts, is let salespeople know when meaningful activity has occurred and help to engage sales with the prospect when the interest is the highest. We want to try and put a little bit more control back into the sales folks. If we can get sales on the phone quickly with somebody who's had meaningful interactions, the hope is that human nature will kick in and the prospect will prefer talking to a human being rather than clicking around a website. And if your salespeople can position themselves as trusted advisor and giver of information rather than taker of time on the phone, they will begin to build that key relationship that's going to be needed to close the deal. The sooner we could do that, the better. If we could do that before they get on the phone with one of your competitors, the better. These activity alerts, while relatively straightforward and simple, if done well and if driven by a good solid lead scoring model, they get sales very excited about marketing and lead gen efforts. Again, as sales start to see these and they start to build trust in the quality of the leads, sales will be very excited and they will pounce on these leads when they come in. And we need that lead scoring model in place to ensure only the highest quality leads are moving through the system. When we tell people when you're first setting up your first lead scoring model to run it conservatively for a period of time, maybe run it against a subset of your sales team so that you're testing and then adjusting. You will adjust the lead scoring model multiple times and throughout its lifetime. You won't get it right the first time. Even with predictive lead scoring models, there's adjustments that have to be made along the way, and Salesfusion offers both predictive as well as traditional. So you will have to make adjustments on the fly. You will have to pull your salespeople or pull metrics back from CRM on whether or not these leads we're sending through are in fact converting, are turning into opportunities, and are closing for revenue. We want to also give sales personnel insight into the behavior. We don't want to just say, here's a lead, they downloaded this. What we're doing oftentimes is, as we're passing this information to sales, as we're alerting sales that there's been activity, we want them to go to the record in CRM where they're comfortable living, where they've lived for years. It's in these records, through the integrations that we create between marketing and sales systems, where we present the information that we've gathered. Here's all the web pages they looked at. Here's all the emails they've opened. Here's all the downloads and links they've clicked on your website. You're trying to give a level of context behind the interactions so that sales can craft a very meaningful first phone conversation. And isn't it better to have some insight into what the interest level of the person is based on what they've done on your website and blog, etc. And they can, again, personalize that first interaction. And the example is, hey, this is so-and-so salesperson from so-and-so company, and I noticed that you were on our site last week and you downloaded a couple of pieces of material. I had some additional things that you might find interesting. Now, I will tell you that beginning a relationship with a prospect that way versus cold calling from a list saying, this is so-and-so salesperson from so-and-so company, we haven't spoken before, I would like to take 10 minutes of your time to tell you who I am and why you should listen to me. The latter phone call example that I gave is going to be much more successful 100% of the time. It establishes a trust relationship right out of the gate. It establishes the salesperson as a giver of information rather than a taker of time. We want to present data in a way that sales can digest it and use it in real time, meaning the data has to live in a CRM. We never want sales logging into a marketing automation platform. That's not what they're built for. It's critical that we put this information where it belongs, inside of CRM systems, whether it's in custom database fields that install inside a CRM system, or whether it's in a little pop-up window where we can view a complete report of somebody's activity. The point is, one click to get there, present the information relevant to the contact that you're looking at in CRM. That's a key. The last thing we want to talk about here on this topic is the ability to nurture cold leads. One of the great things that marketing automation systems do for the marketer is they allow you to build these nice long-term nurture programs. Nurture marketing is one of those terms that is sometimes overused and it's misdefined oftentimes. So let me define nurture marketing from our point of view, and it's a point of view that I absolutely espouse and talk about a lot. Nurture programs are a hybrid between marketing and sales activities in a single campaign. Okay, it's not a series of drip emails. It's not a series of automated trigger emails. Those are drips and triggers. Nurture marketing, in order to be a nurture marketing campaign, combines both marketing actions and sales actions. Let me tell you a little bit about what that means. Sales gets an SQL pass from marketing. They make 5 phone calls and leave 5 voicemails into an individual. It's not that that individual is necessarily refusing to talk to you or doesn't want to buy from you. They're not ready to talk to you yet. We live in a world where people communicate 140 characters at a time, and the entire generation of kids growing up and going into college today have grown up talking with their thumbs. So don't be surprised that people don't want to speak on the phone, but that doesn't mean they're not interested in buying at some point. You just don't know yet. So you call, you leave a few messages. Now, the way nurture marketing should work is that a salesperson should just then go into the record and flip a switch, add them to a nurture campaign or change a status from this to that. The nurture system inside of the marketing automation platform should continuously pull the CRM database, and it should look for people that have been flagged as nurtured, and it should grab those and bring them over and put them into some kind of a campaign where we're continuously communicating with people, but we're also reading and reacting to what people are doing inside of that actual stream of emails. It should be enrollment based, and that again can happen on scoring, lead status changes, forms, or web activity. Sales, as I mentioned, the key thing, automatically flag those leads and alert them back when activity occurs. So let's walk through that scenario again. Marketing passes an SQL. Sales makes 3 phone calls, 3 voicemails, no dice, changes status to nurture, gets kicked back to marketing. Marketing puts them into some really high value 3-week-long nurture campaign that's dripping out infographics to them each week. What we need to do is then tie activities back. So If the person who we put into the nurture campaign starts to open and click and download, we then create a task in CRM from the marketing system, or we send an alert to the salesperson to bring them back into the fold and let them try again. If this is conversational in nature, thanks sales, we'll start marketing to this person. We're marketing. Oops, here's an interaction. Sales, now it's time for you to re-engage and try again. And if sales tries again and they don't get in touch with them, we can either keep them in the nurture campaign or disqualify them out altogether. Marketing automation systems are purpose-built to enable the traditional definition of nurture marketing. If you look at what nurture means, verb, it's to care for, encourage the growth or development of. If it's a noun, it's the process of caring for and encouraging the growth. Growth and development. That's what you hear when you hear nurture marketing. We're trying to grow and develop our prospects. Grow them to the point where they're ready to talk to a salesperson. There are some metrics that should be considered. During the last 5 years, the average sales cycle has become 22% longer, typically with 3 or more decision makers. That's from SiriusDecisions. Companies that excel at lead nurturing are generating 50% more leads at 33% lower cost. Nurturing emails get 4 to 10 times the response rate compared to standalone email blasts, and that is a very conservative figure. Having run nurture marketing programs for many years at one level or another, we see open rates as high as 26, 27, 45%. So performance overall, you're going to have lower numbers of people than you would the batch and blast emails, but they tend to perform much higher. Companies that are very good at lead nurturing have 9% more sales reps making quota. Nurture leads, on average, have a 20% increase in sales opportunities versus non-nurtured leads. Nurture marketing works for many, many reasons. At its simplest form, what nurture marketing is doing is it's trying to find those people who are interested in our product or having some kind of initial interactions with us and present them with complementary content. Somebody comes to my site and they visit my email marketing page. We can present back to them some infographics, some case studies, some white papers over the course of time. We're educating them, we're nurturing them, we're growing them, we're building them up to the point where they're ready to talk to somebody. Interesting statistic, this actually came from a research study that we had commissioned with a firm, and it talked about the usages of MA systems, marketing automation systems. A couple of interesting points to note. Sales' access to marketing automation data, which is typically pushed to the CRM, is increasing, and that makes perfect sense. It's key that marketing automation systems interact with CRM systems. Standalone, both systems are not as valuable. The access is occurring through the core CRM, which means marketing automation platforms are getting better at integrating at a deep level with CRM, and Salesfusion is very much a leader in this. We've carved out part of our space in the industry as being experts in integrating with CRM systems. Understanding how marketing automation data connects to the CRM systems is absolutely key, and figuring out who should have that data access and who should consume that data access in CRM is obviously very important as well. When companies put the right data into CRM systems, this is an interesting graphic, and it actually goes back about 2 years from a research study, but it's very relevant today. What it's looking at is companies that outperform their peers. So if you are an airline manufacturer and you're Boeing and you're outperforming all the other airplane manufacturers, that's what a top performer is in terms of revenue and several key performance indicators. Companies that are putting website page visits into their CRM system, making that accessible to sales, 73% of the quote-unquote top-performing companies are doing that. And that makes perfect sense if you believe all the stuff we've already said today. If you believe the fact that people are consuming your information online, that sales has lost control of some of that information, it stands to reason if we give sales some control back by giving them information about who's on their website and how and why, that can in turn increase the overall performance of your campaigns, your number of leads, leads converting to ops, ops closing, ultimately growing your revenue. When you do marketing automation right, it pays significant dividends. A chart from a research study we commissioned from Demand Metric talks about the financial benefits of getting sales and marketing aligned. It doesn't specifically talk about marketing automation. There's kind of an underlying assumption there that you're going to have marketing automation in place. Tangible benefits, C-level executives are very much beginning to understand this. We're starting to see CEOs and CFOs pay attention to what marketing automation is and what it can do. The simple fact of the matter is the new buyer journey that we talked about is driving companies to adapt to the new reality. I have to have the right technology in place to identify people who are interested and get them in front of sales. I've got to have marketing and sales working from the same page. 80% of companies were hitting their revenue targets that were highly integrated. 80%. There's a platform approach to all of this. The platform approach to marketing automation means we're bringing as much of the marketing function into one place. That's going to be email marketing, landing pages, website visitor tracking, event management, lead scoring, lead management, advanced marketing analytics and reporting. This platform approach is critical because marketers for too long have been operating in silos. They've got an email tool, I've got a landing page tool, I've got social tools, I've got this tool, I've got that tool, etc. And they've been buying low-cost web-based tools for $199 a month under the radar of their CIO. Now, this is much more about an enterprise technology play, okay, where I'm purchasing a product because I specifically need it to integrate to my CRM system. So we're starting to see much more of a platform approach, and it's very similar to what CRM systems went through back in the mid to late 90s, where you had call center apps, forecasting apps, sales tracking apps, call tracking apps. All those came together into a single platform, which gave us better intelligence and reporting. That's happening with marketing right now. All the point solutions that marketers have been using are all coming under one umbrella. Buying trends. There is a movement away from bulk email blasts to nurture programs, and that's great. Because with the proliferation of cheap email tools, the $99 a month e-blasting tool, there are so many emails flowing into people's inboxes. I have no less than 250 unsolicited emails per day. In order to get somebody's attention, you have to be relevant. Things are moving away from bulk to nurture. People are beginning to focus on aligning marketing and sales. Not which email tool should I buy, but how do I get marketing and sales aligned, and then figuring out which technologies integrate best with my marketing and with my sales systems. Integrating online channels, figuring out email, social, PPC, blog, and how to get that data into a single place, and then focusing on integration of marketing and CRM as an enterprise project, much in how we used to think about integrating CRM with ERP applications. So, Kerry, that's going to bring me to the end of the presentation part. I hope we've left enough room here at the end to go through some questions. So I want to ask Kerry to come back on, and we can kind of wrap up the session and potentially get into some of the Q&A. But again, I want to thank everybody who persevered through the presentation. Hopefully you found the information helpful and insightful. Kerry?
Thanks, Kevin. I wouldn't call it persevering. Kind of enjoyed it myself. So thanks for all that information. Folks, if you have a question for our presenter, and many of you do, now's a good time to type it into the Q&A box on the left. And in the meantime, we'll get started on some of the questions that have already come in. So first, Kevin, what's the difference between Salesfusion and HubSpot?
Okay. Not a fan of doing direct vendor comparisons on a webinar, but since the question has come up, I'm happy to tackle it. HubSpot and Salesfusion are somewhat different in the DNA of their applications. HubSpot is an application that was very successful at creating a combined blogging, SEO, web CMS platform that was very effective at handling inbound and SEO. And over the years, they've added some additional front-end functionality around email and landing pages, etc. So they certainly have moved from just being a pure play inbound SEO tool to more of a full-featured marketing platform. We tend to see them in smaller businesses, a company that wants their web, their blog, and a few other tools all in one place. We'll tend to see HubSpot there. Salesfusion's DNA is around CRM integration. So a lot of what you heard me talk about today was around marketing and sales alignment. So we are a CRM system ourselves. We're a marketing automation platform built on top of a CRM. So our DNA is marketing and sales alignment. That's all we really care about at Salesfusion. So we have this great feature-rich platform that has all the toys that marketers like, but we excel at integrating marketing and sales through technology and then through the processes. So subtle differences to how the applications began and where our strengths are.
Great, thank you. One attendee poses a question about content shock. The theory about content marketing that says that people are really overwhelmed just by the sheer volume of content they get, and more people are entering the content marketing game all the time. So how can marketers overcome this and break through all the noise?
Relevancy is key. It's content today. There is a proliferation of it, and there's different types. So you've got articles, you've got blog posts, you've got videos, you've got white papers, you've got all the different social posts, you've got webinars. So you have a lot of different types of content. Relevancy is going to be key. That web forensics piece is really important. Understanding what information people are consuming on your website and then reacting to that through these automated nurture programs. We are seeing very good results on that, and we are helping to kind of cut through some of the content shock that you're describing. There is absolutely always going to be just a level of background noise that you have to somehow rise above, and blocking and tackling of marketing. If you could be relevant to someone, if you can help educate someone and provide really good relevant content to them, you can oftentimes overcome that. But it is a challenge, and it's going to continue to be a challenge as more and more people begin to adopt content marketing strategies. There are entire companies that exist today that you can hire to write content for you. And so now even mid-market and SMBs who probably struggled with content creation in the past because they don't have 4 full-time copywriters on staff can go out and hire somebody to do that. So there's just so much of it that we have to attempt to be as relevant as possible.
With sales required to update so many different systems as part of their job, how can a marketer work with sales and encourage them to update one more system, the CRM system?
Well, the good thing is that marketing automation systems are not asking sales to actually do anything different than they're already doing. So we're actually embedding a lot of the marketing information inside of the CRM, so it's where they live already. The only time salespeople are usually going to have to interact is when they want to flag a lead as not being ready. We do want that feedback loop from sales, but they're probably going to do that anyway. So in most CRM systems, you'll have a lead record, for example. And in that lead record, you'll typically have a status or a type field, which is usually a drop-down. So if a rep's calling on somebody, call, they're not getting through, they may change the status of the lead to dead and then move it out. Well, all we're asking them to do is say, okay, we'll just mark it to remarket or nurture, and then marketing can pick that back up. And what we're finding is it's a little less work on sales part, because we can maybe go back and pick that lead up and nurture it along rather than relying on them to create follow-up tasks in CRM. So we may actually eliminate some of the work that they've had to do in the past by picking that lead back up and taking control of it and ownership of it again.
Great. Well, that's good news. Do you administer your email campaigns directly from your marketing automation system, or do you still use companies like Constant Contact? I know you don't like talking about specific vendors, but companies like that.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I wouldn't classify Constant Contact as a marketing automation platform or a competitor per se. They're an ESP, and most marketing automation platforms today have or should have a built-in ESP platform. The way Salesfusion does that's basically an email service provider platform. So all the emails are built, administered, executed, and fulfilled through Salesfusion.
Great. How much success has Salesfusion seen for its platform when purchased by law firms or accounting firms, professional services firms? So not necessarily the biggest, but medium-sized or even smaller firms.
Business services in general has been the second most adopted category for us. with technology being number one. Tech companies are always a little bit earlier in the adoption phase of newer technology, and marketing automation is certainly a newer technology. Right behind that is BizServe. So we have a pretty good mixture of those type of professional firms. The reason that they work well is because you're not selling a product or a feature, and I don't have to prove that my product or feature is better than your product or feature. In business services and professional services, it's knowledge capital. Who is more knowledgeable? Who's the expert? And you could build nurture programs and nurture campaigns in the system that really allow a firm like that to highlight their expertise and educate prospects over a longer period of time. They tend to have slightly longer sales cycles. They tend to have sales cycles that requires much more education. So they're using these type of nurture programs to engage people and prove that they're the experts. So it actually is a square peg in a square hole.
Great. We have time for one more question. Does Google Analytics track enough downstream website visitor traffic, or is another third-party platform required to help with lead scoring model?
Typically, marketing automation platforms won't use any Google data. And we certainly don't as well. That doesn't mean you take Google Analytics off your website. You absolutely leave it on your website. It's a different classification of website data. Google Analytics is more interested in the performance of your website and how people are flowing from page to page, etc. Is your SEO and is all that set up properly? That's what Google's really tracking. Website visitor tracking inside of a marketing automation is identifying the person or the company that's on your website and how they got there and what they're consuming when they get there at the individual level. You'll never get that from Google. So this is a complementary technology to Google Analytics. We don't necessarily use Google Analytics data. We use data gathered from the website visitor tracking systems. In our system, that's web forensics.
Thanks. You know what? I lied. We have one more question. I want to make sure we get to this one too. I've been known to lie now and then. You talked a lot about integration with CRM. Do you have any advice on what questions marketers should be asking providers to make sure that they use the correct solution?
Correct. Great question. First and foremost, do they have a pre-built integration out of the box with the CRM system? That is a yes/no answer. Then the follow-up question to that is, do you require middleware in order to integrate with that system? And middleware, while not necessarily a bad thing, is not necessarily a good thing either, because there's additional costs and additional maintenance that get involved with that. You want to see pre-built integration. You want to make sure that it's not a simple iframe integration. A lot of times what happens is the marketing system can place an iframe link in the CRM system, especially a web-based CRM app, that just looks back to the marketing automation system. Now that's nice, you can see the data, but oftentimes the information is not sitting in CRM database fields. So there's no workflow reporting that you can run per se in the CRM system off of the marketing data. So make sure that the marketing system is creating and populating actual database fields in the CRM system with marketing data for reporting and workflow purposes. But again, recap, is it out of the box, meaning is it pre-built? Does it require middleware? Do you install any marketing data natively inside of the CRM system? I think those are three good questions I would always ask.
Great. Well, Kevin, thank you again for talking with us today.
It was absolutely my pleasure, and I hope everybody enjoyed the content.
Great, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's seminar sponsored by Salesfusion as much as I did. We truly value your feedback, so please fill out our very quick survey. It's listed here in the slide. And thanks again to everyone for joining us. We hope to see you all again very, very soon. Have a great day.